Hey everyone, it's Dr. Jason West and the West Clinic team, Thursdays live. And obviously I'm not in my doctor attire. And the reason why I'm not is because it's Halloween, and Halloween is a big deal at the West Clinic. We all dressed up, the providers dressed up as refs and the team as players. And so it's kind of fun to see some of those pictures. And I was trying to get it up on my phone so I could show everybody, but we had a technical glitch where we just weren't ready to do that. So I'm going to have to show that on our Facebook Live or Instagram account. But Halloween, and there's something really, really important to know of how you can make yourself sick at Halloween. We call it the Halloween infection. Real quick though, I wanted to give a special shout out to a super special person in my life. This is Max. Max is my father-in-law. He passed away on Saturday from, his mind was sharp, his body just wore out, and anyway, it's hard for me to talk about without getting emotion, but he was a really important person at the office. Matter of fact, this is the last picture of Max and Tori and Susie right here, and so tribute to Max. We're really gonna miss you. You're part of us for sure, but anyway, his funeral's coming up on Saturday, and just really, really important to us. And anyway, Max, we love you tons. So if you're just joining us, it's the Dr. J show at 5 o'clock. We always want to give health benefits and information. And the first thing we want to talk about is this, the pandemic update. I was on Fox about 9 or 10 times this morning across the country on Fox News. And a special shout out to my friends in the radio industry and on some of the TV shows that had us on. We're talking about the new study, the coronavirus study that talks specifically about the type of blood. And so if you have a certain blood type, it looks like you are less susceptible to serious infections. You'll spend less time sick, less time in the hospital, and less time on a ventilator. And that's if you have O-type blood. So remember, there's a couple different types of blood. There's A, there's B, there's AB, and then there's O. And there was a study that came out of Denmark that talked about, in New York, there was 2 places of the study that the type of blood that you have is thought to be reduce the risk factor. And so I was on Fox commenting about that. And what was fascinating is at the end of the study, the researchers said, hey, we need to recognize that following good rules of health, reducing transmission, washing your hands, getting yourself healthy is so important. You can't just ignore it if you have a certain blood type. I certainly don't recommend thinking that if you have O blood that you're completely immune. You can't follow normal health rules, but it was kind of really interesting for everybody to talk about. I asked about it several times this week. And remember that the infection can be really affected by certain things that we're doing this type of year. So if you're just joining us, it's the Dr. Jason West live at 5, Thursdays at 5 o'clock. And we're talking about infections, not only the pandemic, but also Epstein-Barr, staph infection, E. coli, and the flu. And so a couple discussion points that are really important about. One, remember everybody's going to get in contact with the coronavirus. Now, there's 7 types of coronavirus. There is the coronavirus 1 through 4 that cause the cold. Then there's the MERS, which is the respiratory virus. There's SARS, and then there's COVID-19. And fortunately, with the coronavirus 19, there's millions of people that aren't getting sick, and there's millions of people recovering. And it's horrible to have serious problems and deaths and stuff associated with the coronavirus. But we also can remember that the narrative that there's 99.9% of the people that are going to survive the coronavirus infection. And so the most important thing that's coming out of the study and the information is the rules of health. And what are the rules of health? We talk about this all the time. Getting enough sleep, channeling and managing stress. Everybody should have a stress outlet, and right now is the most important time to be using it. So it's listening to music, it's playing music, it's gardening, it's walking, exercise, it's journaling, prayer, meditation, whatever it is for you. That is so important to have on your schedule. And then if you do know your blood type, maybe you can breathe a little bit easier if you have O-type blood. But remember this, it doesn't substitute again, the rules of health and what the research shows. And so when people are saying, Dr. West, what should I take? And the answer is take good food, good air, water, and also some really important vitamins. So we're going to go over those. And I'm excited to share with you some real hardcore research on what we're sharing with you and why it's so good for you. So the first thing is vitamin A is so good for your mucous membranes. It's an immune stimulator. It's really important in kids to prevent the respiratory syncytial virus. We're going to show that study in just a minute. So here it is. Children infected with the respiratory virus have low levels of vitamin A. So if you have kids, one of the smartest things to do is to push vitamin A foods. Obviously, carrots is a big one, squash, your green leafy vegetables have some vitamin A in it, and cod liver oil, some fish has some vitamin A in it. Organ meats, which I got to be honest with you, I'm not a big organ meat fan. So I don't like liver, I don't like kidney, I'm not really a big fan of heart. So I would prefer to take that in supplements. Another one study that we're talking about is vitamin A plays a critical role in the antiviral immune responses against the influenza virus. We're going to go some more studies about vitamin C, and then sugar intake is so important, especially at Halloween time. Do you know that 2 tablespoons of sugar lowers your phagocytic index 4 times? Now here's what that really means. We have some cells in our body called immune cells that cruise around and they eat up bad guys. And why that's so important is they literally come against the bacteria or the viral infected cell, they swallow it. We call that phagocytosis. And a normal white blood cell can swallow 16 bad guys before it turns into a pus cell, dies, and exits the body. About an hour after taking 2 tablespoons of sugar, what happens is that phagocytic index, or ability to neutralize bad guys, goes from 16 to 4, which means your body has to work 400% harder than it does if you have refined sugar out of your diet. And everybody talks about sugar. I'm like, it's not fruit sugar. It's not molasses. It doesn't seem to be honey. It's refined sugar and high fructose corn syrup. So we're going to go into those in a minute. Matter of fact, I'm going to bring them up right now. I think they're really important. And by the way, if you're just joining us, we have an entire guide for you here. It's called the Flu Survival Guide. Now, the reason why we called it the Flu Survival Guide because of instead of the Virus Viral Guide is because on some of our social media platforms, a couple of our postings where we're just trying to get people educated, they have been flagged for partial information. And it's one thing that you really can't even talk about the pandemic, the coronavirus, COVID-19, without having someone say, flagging information. So we just put together a viral guide. And if you want the guide, I'm happy to send it to you. Just do #virus in the comment section, either on YouTube or on Facebook. And so I'm going to go through the guide in just a minute. But what I'm really excited to show you about is, and this is just kind of fun, this was Halloween at the office. So this is the providers really quick. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is me and Kelly, our mind body healer. Kelly works in helping people to overcome one of the barriers to healing, which is the emotions. But also this is Jody and Tori and Cora. And I have pictures with everybody. I don't want to get jammed up on that. Let's see, maybe I can show everybody really quick and then no one will feel left out. Susie and Misty and Tasia, so they were the players and we were the refs. And then of course our whole team is right here. You can't even see me, but I'm going to point, there we go, right up here. So anyway, that's not what I went over here for. Let's talk about the benefits of the protocol. So if you've been following the last 6 or 7 months, we talk about how to make your immune system top notch. And again, nothing beats this. Water, good food, good rest, healthy live foods, and then this, like vitamin A. I'm so impressed and excited about the dietary intake of vitamin C. So vitamin A, so one, it helps your eyes. But then also, if we start coming in here, vitamin A is associated with decreased gastric cancer risk. It's good for preventing morbidity in children from 6 months to 5 years. It helps decrease the length of a hospital stay in children with pneumonia. So then again, that mucous membrane. And it's really helpful in Respiratory conditions. Well, guess what? This little bug that's floating around that we're all going to come in contact with attacks your respiratory mucous membranes. Vitamin A is so important. What I take, and again, this is not meant to substitute for a doctor-patient relationship, but what I'm taking is 10,000 units of vitamin A for my kids, which are 22, 23, 21, 17, 14, is 5 to 10,000 units of vitamin A. That's just one of the things we recommend. But there's so many things that vitamin A recommends. And this is from my website. I want to give a shout out to Green Med Info. It's one of my favorite websites for information. And I think it's, I want to say it's $20 a month to participate in Green Med Info, and it's worth every penny. Like if you want good information, this is my favorite place on the web to get. I was able to meet the founder, Sayer Ji, at a conference a couple years ago. I sat next to him at a table and he was telling me about this website, and I'm so happy. It's awesome. By the way, I have no vested interest. There's no reason for me to do that other than to tell you guys this is the place where I like to go get information and talking about vitamin A. The next one we want to talk about is my second favorite vitamin. It's right here. And by the way, we've put all of this together in a guide here called the Flu Survival Guide. Now, we specifically talk in here about what to do if you have the flu. So we talk about vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D3, and you can get it all in a free report. It's #virus if you want that information. And so, anyway, so we just wanted to review and talk about that. But let's go back into the literature here and talk about vitamin D, and how it's so important for infection. So I got to scroll to the right place, and and here it is. So one, we know it helps the immune system. The immune system is responsible for bacteria, viruses, parasites. It's good for repairing injury. So high doses of vitamin D or high levels of circulating vitamin D is really good for the prevention of the C word. It's also really good in asthma, which is one of the risk factors for the coronavirus. It's also really good for the inflammatory bowel disease. So again, that's your mucous membranes. Decreased risk in pelvic floor disorders associated with vision. So high levels of vitamin D helps you to see. And it's also really important in earaches in children, in cardiovascular disease, in PCOS or polycystic ovarian disease, in multiple sclerosis. Vitamin D is my second favorite vitamin, and I feel like, I'm kind of cheating on vitamin D when I say that my favorite one is vitamin C. But if you're concerned about the viral infections that are going around, the flu virus, if you had chronic earaches, if you have stomach problems, if you have hormone imbalance, vitamin D3, and this, again, not to substitute a doctor-patient relationship, what I take in the wintertime is at least 10,000 units of vitamin D3. And for my patients, depending on their age and some other things, 5,000 units is a good maintenance dosage. 10,000 units is in the wintertime. So especially around this time period, I'm on 10,000 units. It's not expensive. Like vitamin D, it's literally like pennies every day for one of the best things that you can do for your immune system. And then my all-time favorite vitamin. Now, the reason why vitamin C is so important and special to me is we follow a book in the office called Curing the Incurable by a friend of mine named Dr. Levy, who's a medical doctor, board certified, I want to say cardiology and internal medicine. He's also an attorney, wrote a groundbreaking book, Curing the Incurable. He also wrote one called the Panacea and Calcium, the Killer, because if you have calcium in the wrong place, it just hammers your immune system. And so here's what I talk about. And when you go to Green Med Info at the very beginning, you talk about some of the biggest turnarounds that they've seen in acute viral infections is to do intravenous vitamin C. And so what does vitamin C do? Vitamin C donates electrons to the body. It's literally like putting your body in a battery charger and charging it up. And so if you're just joining us, it's the Dr. West Thursday at 5 o'clock. We're talking about what to do, especially around Halloween, and how to be healthy with viruses floating around. We're going into the winter time. when the flu virus raises up. Also, everybody wants to know what's the best thing they can do for virus protection and your immune system. It's vitamin A, vitamin D, and now we're on vitamin C. So when we look through this, there's 1,088 abstracts on vitamin research. I would make the argument that, you know, the Food and Drug Administration says that any article designed for the cure, prevention, mitigation of human conditions that is not a food is a drug. Therefore, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin C are drugs, although most people don't think they're that way. And I would argue that vitamin C is the most researched drug, because you start going here. Vitamin C and vitamin E in animal models help spinal cord injuries. It helps to reduce cataracts. It's really important for eye health. Here it is, extra doses of vitamin C on daily supplements shortens the common cold, which guess what? That's in the coronavirus family. If you're not taking vitamin C, you should be taking it right now. And I love liposomal vitamin C. That's when you take vitamin C powder and you mix it with either safflower oil or soybean lecithin or sunflower oil. It forms a mycelial formation. When you put it into your body, what happens is it has this, it protects the vitamin C. It's almost like getting a vitamin C infusion. That's my favorite way to get it. Of course, the very best way to get vitamin C is your knife and fork. So there's so many things that have vitamin C in it. Strawberries have really high doses of vitamin C. Obviously, lemons and limes. Spinach has some vitamin C in it. Your colorful and alive foods like peppers and radishes have vitamin C in it. And man, does it put the hurt on infections. So vitamin C, my favorite thing to do, my favorite way to treat people is IV vitamin C. It's something that we've doing for nearly 20 years in the office, but also it's really helpful for athletic injuries and athletic recovery. It donates electrons to the body. So one of the reasons why people get sick is because they run out of energy. And so some people get arthritis, some people get irritable bowel syndrome, some people get hormone imbalance, some people get infections, some people get cancer, some people get autoimmune disorders. And one of the best and most effective ways to helping them is vitamin C levels. Now, I just realized that one of the comments over here on our screen, why are you in a uniform, Dr. West? And I tell, it's Halloween time at the West Clinic. That's what we decided for our theme. In years past, I've been Dracula, we have been pirates. One year I was the Grim Reaper, which, by the way, that wasn't a good thing to do inside of a doctor's office. It was kind of a weird joke that we had, and I'll never do that again. But we're talking about what you can do in viral season. We have a guide here that we've put together called the Flu Survival Guide, and if you'd like it, just type #virus inside the comments either on YouTube or on Facebook, and we're going to go through the guide in a little bit more detail. But right now we're talking about the hardcore science of the recommended protocol: vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc. And so we're talking about vitamin C, over 1,000 abstracts. In Dr. Levy's book, Curing the Incurable, it talks about 1,200 scientific studies. Now we're going to drop down into zinc. And the zinc, there's 250 abstracts about zinc, how it helps with hormones, how it helps with wound healing, how it's really good for stress response. That and magnesium. Zinc and magnesium are so important in the management of people that are over probably 60. It's really good because that's what it says the elderly, and I didn't want to say it's really good for elderly. It's so important for gestational diabetes, for other types of diabetes, for macular degeneration, for bacterial infections, for repairing DNA. And so zinc, matter of fact, the information that came out earlier this summer about hydroxychloroquine and zinc really helping to recover from coronavirus, I would think that a lot of the benefit has to come from the zinc that they're taking, and the dosage that I'm taking for myself and that I'm recommending with patients that I have relationships with is 30 to 50 milligrams a day. And then the most important thing about Halloween, this is critical. I brought this up, over 76 studies, that high sugar intake lowers your immune system. And so as people are going out and as kids are going out and getting a bunch of refined sugar and some other things, what is really important about that is to know the effect that it has on your immune system and to recognize right now, as the infection rates are increasing and other things, that it's so important for your kids to not be on high sugar, for you to not be on high sugar, because what it does is affects learning and memory. It's important for ulcerative colitis. It's for depression. It really affects obesity in preschool children. It's a liver cancer risk factor. It's high consumption associated with depression. It's really important for metabolism, and it's like throwing cold water on your immune system fire. If you want to do something that'll increase your risk factor off the charts for the flu, for the common cold, for corona, for Epstein-Barr, for the cytomegalovirus, the parvovirus, rhinovirus, rotavirus, like any of the millions of viruses that are around, is decrease your immune system by your high sugar intake. And so we put that together into a guide. We want people to have as much information as possible. So here's the viral guide recommendations. Obviously, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, so don't get sick. The next thing, if you can't sleep, you can't heal, try to get 8 hours a night, avoid contact with sick people. While you're sick, I would just hammer vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D3, zinc, and then there's a whole bunch of other things that are fantastic. I love a Native American herb called lomatium. That is probably my favorite herbal formula. I love echinacea. I think golden seal and burdock is really good. I really like a Japanese herb called yakatron that's really, really helpful for conditions. Washing your hands is so important because the soap dissolves the lipid layer around the viruses. And the other things, going into some of the specific highlights of the protocol that we've seen working for as long as I've been in practice. So I'm fortunate to join a generational practice. It's literally 105 years, and this is the protocol that my dad learned from his dad, and my grandfather learned from my great-grandfather. Vitamin C. I really like to be at least 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams. Linus Pauling, I think it's the only person that's won 2 Nobel laureates in different disciplines, was really pushing, hey, you need to be as high as bowel tolerance. He was up to 30,000 milligrams a day. You have to train your body to get up there. Vitamin D3, I just love it as a maintenance. It's so helpful for moods, emotions, immune system, for bone health, for reducing the risk factors associated with cancer and autoimmune disorders. 5 to 10,000, I almost said dollars, 5 to 10,000 units a day. Elderberry is thought to shorten the decrease of viral outbreaks. It decreases pain and inflammation. I love elderberry. We have a product called Immune Power that we have everything in there. And again, I don't care where you get this stuff. I just want to make sure that you get good sources. We have it all outlined in the free guide, the virus guide, so hashtag virus if you want it. The other thing that I forgot to mention is that how viruses replicate is they have to get into cells. And then when they get into cells, they hijack the cellular machinery, and then what happens is they start to replicate. And one of the best ways to prevent infection is to protect the phospholipid bilayer around cells. So we have this little layer of insulation or fat, and then there's protein channels, and there's openings through those layers where the cell is bringing in nutrients and oxygen and stuff like that. Well, one of the things that really helps protect the skin around the cells is essential fatty acids. And there's a lot of research showing that not only does it protect the cells, it protects your immune system and makes your skin healthy. If you have fat in your skin and you get out in the sun, what happens is you can convert those essential fatty acids into cholecalciferol, which is vitamin D3. We also put in a little timeline of if you see sickness in the first 48 hours, what to do, what some of the symptoms are, why fevers are important. Now, a lot of times people say, what are you talking about? In order for the immune system to start and to work, you have to get it turned on with heat. And so there has to be an increase. A lot of the enzymes in the immune system doesn't work at your normal temperature levels of 98.6. It has to be 100, 101. I was seeing some literature the other day that said, the fevers really aren't alarming until they're about 102.5, 103. in kids that you have a little even more latitude. Now, listen to your gut. If you think your or your fever is too high, like, I'm not opposed to doing something about it. I think you should listen to yourself. Patients know their bodies better than doctors. But also, sometimes what happens is people will delay or give their infection a new lease on life by doing a fever reducer. So we put together basically the seasonal flu versus the stomach flu guide, some of the complications associated, when to see a doctor, when to call 911, and what to do to prevent. So these are some of the things that I'm doing, making sure you're on a good essential fatty acid, a multivitamin, multimineral. Now, I'm somewhat of a closet hypochondriac because I want to avoid everything that comes into the office. Like, I don't want to get sick with any type of virus or bacteria. I want to avoid heart problems. My biggest one that I want to avoid is dementia and brain problems. So I do a lot of things that are really important for brain health. And then for prevention, I really like elderberry. I love lomatium. I have a product called Immune Power. There's a specific way that you can customize supplements that's a part of something that we've put together that we offer patients that we're working with. And that's really the overview of what's happening in the pandemic world. So again, I was on Fox News multiple times over the last, week. I've probably been on there 10 or 11 times, telling people, look, let's change the narrative into we're all going to be exposed to the virus. We're all going to be exposed to the flu virus. We're all going to be exposed to bacteria and parasites. And if you think about how our immune system is working, every single day our immune system is fighting something. And if we put effort and energy into our immune system, I think it's the best way to make sure that we're healthy in a sick world. So that's really the show that we put together. We want to talk about the research on vitamin C, vitamin A, D3, and zinc, some of the protocols that I'm doing for people. Special shout out to Arnold and Cheryl. You guys know where you are. They sent an email to me about wanting some help on not to have exacerbated symptoms with everything floating around. And our normal people, Robert, that's always on our show and making comments. We're doing this great little guide. It's 8 pages on different things, of the things that I think are most important that you can do outside of the office. There's some ideas you can do inside of the office with oxidative medicine and IV infusion therapy. But if you'd like to see this, just comment #virus. And that is our show for the weekly Thursday night lives. You're going to see the highlights of this in some of the different Fox interviews. And also we have a library of stuff that we have put together that I'm excited to share with you. So watch for the upcoming news, how you can access basically the video vault, what to do about things, how to fix things, what did the terminology mean, categorize of all of the patient library and stuff like that we've put together in a real nice educational system. And so that's the show. This is Dr. Jason West, and I'll see you guys next Thursday, 5 o'clock Mountain Time, on health tips, information, how to beat your diagnosis. You're not your disease. There's a person in there, and if you figure out what the deficiency is and balance it, you can be one of the medical miracles that you see on our podcast and our daily show. This is Dr. Jason West, and we'll see you next week.